Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Today, we're talking about rare and valuable Washington quarters that could be worth big money, and might be hiding in your change. Let's take a closer look at the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark. This coin may look just like the quarters we use every day, but it has a fascinating backstory, and if you're lucky, it could be worth thousands of dollars. So, what makes the 1965 quarter so special? In 1965, something big happened in the coin world. The U.S. government passed a law called the Coinage Act of 1965. Before this law, quarters were made mostly of real silver, about 90% silver and 10% copper. These coins had actual value just because of the metal they were made from. But over time, the price of silver started to go up. People realized that the silver in their coins was worth more than the face value. So, many people began saving their silver coins, and others even melted them down to sell the silver. This caused a big problem because there weren't enough coins in circulation. To solve this, the U.S. Mint stopped using silver for dimes and quarters. Starting in 1965, they began making quarters out of something called copper-nickel clad. This is a cheaper mix of metals, with a copper core and a nickel outer layer. It looked silver on the outside, but it wasn't real silver anymore. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though the mint was supposed to use the new copper-nickel metal for all 1965 quarters, a few mistakes happened. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally made using the old silver planchets, the blank discs used for the silver coins in earlier years. This happened when leftover silver blanks got mixed into the new production by accident. These mistake coins are now extremely rare and very valuable. So how do you know if you have one of these silver planchet quarters? The first thing to check is the weight. A regular 1965 quarter made with copper-nickel weighs about 5.67 grams. But the rare silver one weighs more, about 6.25 grams. That small difference might not sound like much, but it can mean the difference between a common coin and one worth thousands. Another clue is the edge of the coin. A modern quarter has a colored strip on the side, usually a reddish or brownish color. That's the copper core showing through. But a real silver coin will be one solid color all the way around, no copper line at all. You can also test the sound. When you drop a silver coin on a hard surface, it makes a high-pitched ringing sound. Regular coins sound more dull and flat. Because these silver 1965 quarters are so rare, collectors are always on the lookout for them. Depending on the condition, they can sell for $4,500 to over $8,000 at auctions or coin shows. That's a huge value for a coin that originally cost just 25 cents. Next, we have the 1972 Washington quarter with a D mint mark. At first glance, this coin might look like any regular quarter you'd find in your spare change. It has George Washington's face on the front, the usual writing, and the eagle on the back. But if you take a closer look at certain versions of this coin, you'll notice something strange, and it's this small detail that makes it worth thousands of dollars. So what's the story behind the 1972 D quarter? In 1972, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of quarters for everyday use. These coins were made at different minting locations, and the D mint mark means it was made at the Denver Mint. Now, normally, coins are made using a tool called a die. Dies are metal stamps used to press the design into a blank coin. But during the minting process in 1972, something went wrong. Some of the dies that were used to strike the quarters had a mistake. The designs on them were not lined up correctly, which caused what is called a double die. That means parts of the coin's design, like the words and numbers, look like they have been stamped twice. This kind of mistake is called a double die obverse, or DDO for short. Obverse is just a fancy word for the front of the coin, where you see George Washington's portrait. So a double die obverse means the front of the coin has a doubling error. If you look closely at the 1972 DDO quarter, you can often see doubling on the word liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the date, 1972. Sometimes, the doubling is light and hard to spot. But in other cases, it's very clear, even with just your eyes or a simple magnifying glass. Now, not every 1972 quarter has this mistake. Only a small number were made this way before the mint noticed the error and replaced the bad dies. That's why these coins are considered rare. Collectors love error coins, especially doubled dies, because they're unusual and not easy to find. If you think you might have one, examine your 1972 D quarter carefully. You'll want to focus on the lettering and numbers on the front. If anything looks doubled or has a shadow-like effect, you might have something valuable. The value of a 1972 D DDO quarter depends on two things: how strong the doubling is and what condition the coin is in. A coin in worn condition might still be worth hundreds, but a well-preserved one with strong doubling can sell for $3,000 to $5,000 or more at auctions. That's a lot of money for a coin that started out as just 25 cents. And the best part? These quarters are still out there in the world. People have found them in old collections, coin rolls from the bank, and even in pocket change. So it's always worth checking your quarters, especially if they're from 1972 and have a D mint mark. Finally, let's talk about the 1982 Washington quarter with a D mint mark. This coin may look like an ordinary quarter at first, but some rare versions have a big mistake that makes them super valuable. If you're lucky enough to spot this error, your coin could be worth thousands of dollars. So, what makes this coin special? In 1982, quarters were made at several different mints in the United States. The ones with the D mint mark were made at the Denver Mint. Like all coins, these quarters were made using heavy machines that pressed the design onto a blank metal disc, called a planchet. This process uses two dies, one for the front of the coin, called the obverse, and one for the back, called the reverse. But sometimes, something goes wrong during that process. In some 1982 D quarters, the coin wasn't centered correctly when the design was stamped. This happened because one of the dies, the part that stamps the image, wasn't lined up the way it should have been. As a result, the design on the coin came out off-center. This is what collectors call an off-center strike. When this error happens, part of the coin's design looks shifted to one side. You might even notice that some letters or numbers are cut off or missing. In more extreme cases, part of the blank metal is left untouched, there's no design at all in that area. These off-center coins are easy to spot and are highly collectible. Now, not every off-center coin is valuable. The value depends on how much of the design is off-center and whether the date and mint mark are still visible. That's very important. If the coin is off-center, but you can still see the date, 1982, and the D mint mark, then collectors will be especially interested. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, especially if the coin is still in good condition. Some off-center 1982 D quarters have sold for as much as $4,000 to $6,000, depending on how rare and sharp the error is. That's a huge amount of money for just one coin. Another thing that makes the 1982 D quarter more interesting is that in 1982, the U.S. Mint didn't make any official uncirculated mint sets. That means it's harder to find coins from that year in perfect condition. So if you happen to find an off-center 1982 D quarter in good shape, it's even more special. So, how can you tell if you have one? Look closely at the coin. Is the image on the front or back shifted too far to one side? Are some parts of the design missing or cut off? Can you still read the year and mint mark? If the answer is yes, your coin might be something really rare. These kinds of mint errors are fun to collect, and they can bring in serious cash. People have found them in old jars, coin rolls, and even in regular pocket change. So don't overlook those older quarters, especially the ones from 1982 with a D mint mark and a strange design. So, there you have it. The 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet, the 1972 D double die obverse, and the 1982 D off-center error are among the most expensive and ultra-rare Washington quarters out there. Remember, always inspect your coins carefully. You never know when you might stumble upon a hidden treasure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating coin stories and tips. Happy hunting, and may your pockets be filled with treasures.